As a mobile detailer, the way you do things will be much different than another detailer who works out of a shop or their home garage. So in this video, I'll give you 6 tips you can use to wash your car in the sun and make it a bit more manageable. Now, I am referring to more professional detailers, but if you're doing this as a hobby, as a personal whatever on your driveway, this will also work 100% for you. Now, these are in no particular order, but number 1, which are probably the most useful as a professional mobile detailer, and that's going to be having deionized water. It's water without ions, right? It's when they remove the minerals out of the water. So when it comes to rinsing the vehicle down, you don't have to rush and hurry because no water spots are going to form on the paint, right? Like if it's dead heat, all what's going to happen is the water's going to evaporate with no water spots left. So obviously that's a big deal for mobile detailers. When you're in super hot heat, it makes a big difference. Now, depending on your budget, the mobile rig that you have and all that, maybe you can purchase the DI tank itself, because the DI tank is one purchase and then you have to keep on refilling the resin ever so often depending on your usage or what model you purchase. So it is also a reoccurring purchase based on your usage of it. But it does make a big difference. So when in our mobile rig, in our 100-gallon water tank, that was all DI water. And we wouldn't have to worry about anything happening because, well, we just have to rinse it down. Now, before that, we also had it in our 50-gallon drum of water, because as far as whether it's a 35, 50, 100-gallon water tank, it makes no difference in terms of filling it up. Now, again, before that though, I've done like hundreds of washes with no DI tank, no DI water. So these next following tips are going to be more so of how do you work around just working in the dead heat. What? Do the ad read now? Okay. So a quick shout out from our sponsor, Jobber. I've been using this software in our detailing business for the last 5 years. We use it to do multiple things: to book out our schedule, keep track of customers' information. We use it for employees to clock in and out. We use it to send automated appointment reminders. Basically, it does a lot in our business, and it's one of the main softwares that we use to basically run our entire business. If you want to get a free 14-day trial plus a special discount, click the link down below and give it a try. Let's go back to the video. Number 2, very basic, but can you move the vehicle to a shaded area, right? Is there a tree that you can use as shade? Is there a house that's providing some shade? Are you in an apartment? Are you in a back alley? Are you at a condo? Are you at a business park? Wherever, but like, can you find some shade? Because if it's 140 degrees outside, Fahrenheit, with 70% humidity, working in the shade is much different than just being in the heat with no kind of shade. Like, it makes a big difference. So, and it's most likely gonna be partial shade, meaning you might have it for like 1 or 2 hours depending on what time you start working. But as the day progresses, obviously the shade's gonna move around. So it's not gonna be a permanent solution, but I'd rather you work 2 hours in the shade and then get into the sun versus from start to finish you're in the sun just getting beaten down by the heat. So if possible, move the vehicle to get some shade. And if needed, it's annoying, but if needed, you can move the vehicle as you work, as the day goes on, to keep the vehicle in the shade. At some point, it's probably gonna be too much and there'll be no more shade. But you have to kind of inch the vehicle little by little as the time goes on to keep wherever you're working on in the shade. That is a possibility. Number 3 is, I'll piggyback off the last point, and that's bring a canopy. Again, this is dependent on your mobile rig, your budget and such, but you can purchase a 10 by 10 canopy, like an Academy or something, for like $100. And obviously make sure you get some anchors that we can hold the legs down. But again, like, if you're working out of your, I don't know, your GTI or your Mustang or your Jeep, you might not be able to carry, a canopy. But if it's possible, carry one, because you can do 2 things. Obviously, you can just set it up, make sure it's anchored down, and you'll have shade. And as the sun moves, you'll have to adjust the tent because obviously the shade moves around. So you have to move the shade because you'll want to keep the car in the vehicle if possible, right? Again, it all depends on your environment. Are you working in a big driveway, in an open parking lot, in a small little parking spot? So you might not even be able to open up the canopy, right? So that's that option, right? Or 2, depending on the size and everything else, is that you can buy sidewalls for the canopy. And maybe you don't buy all 4, but maybe you just buy 2 sidewalls for your canopy, and that way you block off some amount of heat and you really decrease the amount of wind that's hitting the vehicle. So that's definitely going to be a plus. Like when we used to do correction and coatings out in the field as mobile detailers, we would carry 3-4 sidewalls, depending on the size of the vehicle, of course, because it does get a little crammed. But if we could block off 2-3 sides of the tent to give us more protection in terms of sun or dust and debris, that's gonna help out a lot. So definitely look into buying sidewalls for your canopy to protect yourself from the heat and the wind. Number 4, I'm gonna keep very general, and the gist of it is basically you have to adjust and adapt your processes, your methods to the environment that you're working in, right? Like, so maybe you do like to foam the vehicle down every single time. Maybe that's just your method, no problem with that. But given that it's so hot and you don't have a DI tank and the water and foam is drying instantly, well, switch it up. I don't know, like, can you foam one side of the vehicle down, wash and do whatever you have to do on that side, flip the vehicle around and then do it to that side, right? Or maybe can you just not foam it down at all and maybe just rinse one side of the vehicle and then go into a rinseless wash? Or maybe you can skip all that and just go straight into a rinseless wash, right? Like, I can't tell you the exact method or what steps to take. You have to really be in that environment, in that situation, and say, okay, based on the environment, the work conditions, the weather, although I'd like to do all this, we have to really, you know, bring it down to the essentials and only do that, right? Like, there's been plenty of times where we're prepping a vehicle for a polish, a sealant, whatever, and we get to the wash and, you know, like the water instantly dries up. So we go with just a rinseless wash, and then we want to do an iron remover, but it's instantly drying on the vehicle and we can't allow it to dwell because it's just going to dry on the paint. So we skip the iron remover altogether. We'd like to do it, it's the proper step, but given the situation that we're in and how hot it is, we literally cannot do it because it instantly dries up on the paint. So whatever situation you're in, like, yes, you'll have to adapt something. You might have to lump 2 steps together. You might have to remove 1 step altogether because you're working in environments that you're not in control of. You can only control how you adapt to that situation. But if it's 108 degrees with 80% humidity, you can only do so much with what you're doing, and you have to adjust to the environment that you're in. Number 5 is check the weather. The weather should never be a surprise to you, right? Like, you shouldn't get to the customer's job at 9 a.m. You park and you're like, oh man, it's raining right now. It's like, well, if you would have just checked the weather the day before in the morning, you would have known it's gonna be raining, right? Or if if it's 12 o'clock and you're like, oh man, it's so hot. I didn't bring any water, and man, what do we do? It's like, well, if you would have just checked the weather, you would have known that at 12 o'clock, it was gonna be peak heat and it was gonna be 110 degrees, right? Like, you can do the most minimal amount of work to just check the weather and see how things are gonna play out. So if you check the weather and it says, okay, peak heat is gonna be 1 o'clock. Well, if you normally start at 9 a.m. and you finish at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, can you start at 7:30 and finish by 11:30? That way you skip the peak heat part, right? Can you go on break, the hour that the peak heat is gonna hit you, right? Like, you were just putting a little bit of thought process into how you schedule your day is gonna make a difference. Because if you can just plan your day different in terms of when you start, when you take a break, and when you end, if you just skip that peak heat part, that's gonna already help you out a lot. Number 6 is gonna have 2 things. One is bring the proper gear, right? Like, and this is the basic stuff. Sunglasses, hats, sunscreens, those like cooling sleeves, a towel to dunk it in cold water and put it on your face and neck, extra socks, extra shirts, hydration, water, Gatorade, food, snacks, like the most basic things that you can actually control to make sure you're staying hydrated and fed so you can work throughout the day. And make sure you're taking a break throughout the day as well. Like, if it's peak heat at 1 o'clock, right? And you're trying to work through it because you want to finish the day faster, you're going to get more fatigued and you're going to end up moving much slower because it's so hot outside, right? Like, as much as you want to be like, no, let's get done by 4 o'clock, the heat will beat you down, right? So at any point in the day, if it's really hot, take a break. Sit in the van, sit in the garage, do something to just take a break, because you have to account for fatigue, right? You might say, okay, hey man, we have 3-4 cars on the schedule. Like, let's really work hard to knock these out. Now, the first vehicle, okay, great, look, good, strong, finish on time. And then the second vehicle, it's like, okay, it's getting a little warmer now, and by the time we finish, it's probably gonna be around peak heat, right? So by the end of the second vehicle, you're like, okay, we're pretty tired, it's pretty hot, man, like it's getting to me. By the third vehicle, you're not operating at the same level as you were on the first vehicle. You're just not. You're tired, you're fatigued, right? And especially if you're not taking breaks, if you don't have hydration, if you're not taking, if you're not eating, if you didn't come with the sunglasses, like you are just being beaten down by the sun. And by the time it gets to the fourth vehicle, you're gonna be moving so much slower because you're just tired, you're fatigued, your body wants to rest and you're not letting it rest. So, you know, again, like you wanna book as many jobs as you can, but obviously you have to account for like, can my body sustain this amount of work? Once in a while, sure, like go for it, right? Push yourself and do that. Once in a while, doing that day after day, the only thing that's gonna happen is lead to burnout. That's it. Because when it is brutally hot, it's gonna wear you down very, very fast. Those are my 6 tips. Let me know what advice you have in the comment section down below. I'll talk to you on the next one.